All right, let's talk about learning JavaScript. You know how it is? There's this huge gap between knowing the theory and actually building something cool from scratch. Well, today, we're going to break down a fantastic, project-based roadmap that's all about bridging that gap, one real-world project at a time.
Okay, so does this feel familiar? You've watched tons of videos, you get the concepts one by one, but then you open a blank code editor and you just freeze, right? You are definitely not alone. A lot of people call this tutorial hell, and it's a super common hurdle for developers.
So, what's the solution? The guide we're looking at today offers a really simple but powerful idea: project-based learning. It's all about breaking that cycle by just building things. You learn the concepts as you go, exactly when you need them to solve an actual problem.
So here's our game plan. We're going to treat this whole journey like a video game, leveling up through 4 key projects that are going to build your skills from the absolute ground up.
All right, first up, the project-based path. The core idea here is you learn stuff only when you actually need it. So instead of just studying theory in a vacuum, you're going to learn something like DOM manipulation, which is basically just how JavaScript talks to your web page while you're actually trying to change something on the screen. It makes so much more sense that way.
And the key here is this incremental method. It's all about preventing that feeling of being totally overwhelmed. You start super small, build the most minimal version of your project you can think of, get that working, and then add one new feature. It's this awesome way to make sure you're always moving forward and building momentum. Okay, let's jump into level 1. Our first project is a simple digital clock. This is where we take a totally static, boring web page and use the basics of JavaScript to actually bring it to life. And you know, even something as simple as a clock unlocks a bunch of foundational skills. You'll learn how to use the date API to get the current time, sure, but the big one is you'll get to practice selecting stuff on a web page and updating it in real time. That's a core skill for any web developer, for sure.
So the engine that makes this whole clock tick is a function called setInterval. Just think of it like the pulse of your app. It's the key to making animations, timers, really anything that needs to update on its own every second without the user having to do a thing.
And here's a great pro tip that helps you avoid a really common beginner mistake. See, if you only use interval, your page loads and nothing happens for one whole second. It feels broken. But if you call your update function once before the interval kicks in, your app feels snappy and responsive from the very first moment. All right, clock complete. Time to level up to the calculator. This project is all about handling user interaction. You know, listening for clicks and responding to what the user does. This is really the heart of any web app. You know, building a calculator isn't really about the math. It's about listening for events, like button clicks, and figuring out what to do with the user's input. And what's really important is that it forces you to organize your code into nice, clean, reusable functions. That's such a vital habit for writing software that doesn't become a mess later. Okay, this is a really important concept to get. When a user clicks the 5 button, your program doesn't see the number 5. It sees the text character 5. They're totally different things to a computer. So you have to explicitly convert or parse that text into a real number before you can do any math with it.
Now this is a super critical tip for both security and just making your app stable. If you just let JavaScript guess what kind of data you have, you're going to run into some really weird bugs. And whatever you do, never use a function like eval on user input. That is a massive security hole that could let someone run malicious code. The big takeaway here, always check and clean up whatever the user gives you. Okay, next up, level 3. We're building a game. This project is awesome because it introduces a really fundamental concept called state management. In simple terms, it's just how your app remembers stuff, like what's the current score? What was the player's last move?
A simple game like rock, paper, scissors is actually perfect for learning how to manage state. And it introduces another cool tool, local storage. This is what lets your data stick around. So when a player gets a high score, it'll still be there even if they close the browser and come back tomorrow. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, the easiest way to think about local storage is like your app's long-term memory. It's just a simple way to save small bits of data, like user settings or that high score, right there in the person's browser, so it's ready and waiting the next time they visit your site.
And here's another one of those pro-level habits, defensive coding. You just can't assume the data you get back from storage is going to be perfect. It might be messed up. So by wrapping your logic in something called a try/catch block, you can prevent your entire app from crashing just because it ran into some bad data.
All right, you've made it. It's time for the boss level, the API app. This is where we connect our little project to the whole internet. We're going to pull in live, real-world data from some other service, like a weather forecast. Honestly, this is the step that can take your project from just a toy to a genuinely useful tool.
And a weather app is the perfect way to learn this. Communicating with APIs is one of the most powerful skills you can have as a modern web dev. You'll learn the entire cycle, how to ask for data, what to do with the response you get back, and, just as important, how to gracefully handle things when they go wrong.
Look at this. This is the plan of attack. It shows you how to take a task that seems really complicated and make it totally manageable. Instead of one giant problem, you've got 5 clear steps. Build the UI, make the request, process the data, show the results, and have a plan for errors. Simple.
Okay, this brings us to something that is absolutely critical: security. Most APIs give you a secret key. Think of it like a password for your app. Now, if you just paste that key into your JavaScript file, literally anyone who visits your site can see it and steal it. The golden rule is never, ever put your secret keys in your public client-side code. The only safe place for them is on a server that you control.
So, you've beaten the boss level, you've completed the projects. What now? Well, the journey doesn't stop with just writing code. This guide also lays out a toolkit of professional habits that are going to help you go from just a hobbyist to a real pro. And the big takeaway here is that being a pro developer is about so much more than just making code that works. It's about using tools like Git, writing code that's actually readable, and, this is a huge one, actually deploying your work so other people can see it. That final step of putting your project out there is a massive, massive motivator. So there you have it, a clear, step-by-step roadmap that takes you from a blank page all the way to building dynamic apps that actually talk to the real world. The time for just watching tutorials is over. The only question left is, what are you going to build first?